welcome to everybody that's come along tonight. It's lovely to see you all. You'll be able to ask us any questions you want by putting them in the chat window. You can also put them in the Q&A window if you want. We really don't mind. So just pop them in there if you'd like us to ask a question. Phil's going to be keeping a beady eye on that for us. And so let's start introducing you again. So Helen Dromey, head of the PGCert, and Andrew Somerville, head of the MA in Practical Teaching, which are both online courses which are offered by ESTA Education. Perhaps we could start, guys, by talking about what's the difference between the two. I get very confused with all these, PG, MA, BBC kind of things. Helen, could you tell us what's the PGCert and who's it aimed at?
Okay, so the PGCert course is a post-qualification, just like the MA, but it's actually a third of a master's. So students start this course doing the PGCert. That's the first third of the entire thing, should they continue, and it takes 1 year to complete. So it's 4 units taken during the academic year. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about the units, or do you want me to tell you more about who takes the course?
Well, tell you what, we'll get on to that in a minute. But perhaps you could tell us about the kind of people that it might be appropriate for. Who might be, who would you be that was thinking, I need this course?
Anyone who is teaching. We have a really, really big range, actually, of students who begin the PGCert. We have new teachers, people that have just graduated, who know that teaching is for them and they want to really get good at it. We've got people already established as teachers, people that just want to refresh and have a bit of kind of like me time and just think to themselves, right, I'm going to have a really good look at what I do. I know I'm fine, I'm up and running, but there's a few revisions to make. We have some incredibly experienced teachers, teachers that are really revered, and they want that time out too, because good teachers reflect. So they think to themselves, okay, teaching's for me, it's my passion, it's my life, but I'm going to take a bit of time and I'm going to see whether there's anything new. Is there anything missing? Perhaps I can tweak this. Perhaps, it's just like an ongoing process. So lots of teachers, and they all get on together in
lovely. Thanks, Helen. And Andrew, the MA, how is that different from the PGCert? And is it the same people that would be doing the MA as would be doing the PGCert?
Yes, so it is many of the same people. We'll talk about this maybe later, but there is a direct progression from the PGCert to the MA, and also options to take time out if one wants. But yeah, it's the same group of teachers who really want to develop their practice. And as Helen said, I think really nicely, that kind of me time as a teacher to really grow. I guess the difference between the two courses is essentially it's the second 2/3 of that master's degree. It also takes place over a year. So actually it's a bit more intense than the PGCert. It's on paper double the workload in terms of credits. But it's an opportunity to just delve even deeper and perhaps maybe more independently dig into all those things that probably the PGCert sparked and lit up in terms of passions and interests to grow our teaching practice and eventually, teach better and give more to our learners. So that's the MA is maybe as a vibe in a nutshell, and we'll go into details later.
Absolutely, thank you. Now, Phil, you're not going to get away without answering any questions for me. Tell me, I went to music college and I had a bachelor's degree. Thank you very much, Royal Academy of Music and King's College London. And then I looked at MAs, doctorates, various things, and thought, as a practical playing violinist at the time, I'm a teacher now, but at the time I wasn't, I thought, why would I need this qualification? So if there are teachers, people who are string teachers here now, looking at this, thinking, would it help me? I mean, the process of doing it is evidently going to be very useful, but the actual having the letters after your name, what's the advantage of having those?
Well, who doesn't like letters after their name? But I mean, I think the course has to be relevant to what you're doing in everyday life, and of course, if you're playing in the LSO, as you did, Nicole, then maybe you found at the time a performance MA would have been more valuable. But if you're teaching and you have running a teaching practice and that instrumental lesson is your environment, then our course sits, I think, nicely between a performance MA and the pure music education MA, because it just relates really to your teaching, and it's quite bespoke actually in that way. I'm sure Helen and Andrew will elaborate further, but really, if you specialize in early years, if you specialize in any sort of aspect or age range of teaching, it's really relevant to you and what you do. So that's why I think it's quite a valuable course.
Brilliant. Now, tell me, Helen, the students, the PGCert's been running for a few years now. The MA's slightly newer baby of ours. But how do the students typically balance the demands of life and work and part-time study and still fitting in watching Traitors on Netflix? You know, iPlayer, sorry.
They have to be incredibly organised, but I think the course helps them because, for one thing, because you're doing a course that's directly related to your work is part of the assignments. That's really helpful. So, for example, a couple of the assignments will ask you to video a lesson that you've actually given, a real, not a pretend one, but a real lesson, and then really analyse it. So it's kind of an extension of what you're doing rather than something completely separate. All of the materials for the course are online, so you can access them at any time at all through the night if you want to. But you can watch them in between teaching. We have some people, someone doesn't turn up and have a quick check of the Moodle page. I'll just do a quick post. Everything is there for you at your convenience. So I think that's all the online materials, all the webinars. You can watch them when you want. You can watch them as many times as you want. The meetings that you will have with your mentor, who is instrument specific, who looks after you and guides you through all those materials. That meeting is arranged in advance, perhaps sort of a unit at a time, so you can make sure that that's convenient for you. That's really helpful too. So there's no set time. You will not be asked to be in a certain place on a Monday at 7 p.m. when actually you're normally teaching. The whole thing's designed to be very, very flexible. We only have the one in-person event, the summer school, and that's during the long summer holiday. So that's a fantastic opportunity to all be together and have the benefits of like seeing each other and doing things in live time. But that all those dates are advertised really, in advance. So I think all of those bits and having all the dates for each unit and knowing what you've got to do in advance and having a handbook, if you're an organised person, which generally teachers are, when the work's going to be quite intense and when perhaps you'll have a week just got to do some reading, just got to meet with your mentor. So the workflow, it ebbs and flows. Most teachers have found it quite manageable.
Brilliant. She's saying that her daughter, who I think might be here as well, hello if you are, she's just completing a music degree at university and is already teaching, and they wanted to know how much teaching should she be doing to be able to take part in something like the PGCert.
Well, we normally say around 6 students. It's not important how long you're teaching, it's not a set number of hours, but because the assignments will involve reflecting on your own teaching, it's ideal to have a selection of students. One assignment might, you just know that charting the progress of a particular pupil or working to develop your teaching of a certain technique would be really great with this one pupil who's struggling and you really want to address it. But another assignment, you might think, oh, I really want to look at my group work, or I really want to look at that one-to-one lesson that's been really going well, and I want to know what I was doing so great in it. So it's really good to have a selection of students to work with, and so that you can implement the ideas too as you're going along and really make the most of, all those new ideas. So I'd say about 6, but many of our teachers have many more, 6+, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you for that. So a question now for you, Andrew. So this core teaching and content for the MA, how is it delivered? And also somebody else has asked, how does this interact with the student-mentor relationship?
So on the MA, we have 3 modules that we take throughout the year. And now 2 of those are single modules. And you do one in the first semester, the other in the second semester. And then you have a double dissertation module that runs throughout the year. Now, just before I go into it, a lot of what Helen said, in fact, almost everything of what Helen just outlined for the PG Cert applies to the MA in terms of this flexibility. So we have the online webinars, which are asynchronous but delivered to a calendar. So then, yeah, you can go back and watch them at convenience. And we have a few other little odds and ends. So one thing we do for the dissertation is we have a singing lesson project we're doing this year, and maybe we'll change it up, but something that puts the students in the position of the learner. So there's a few of those that'll be face-to-face. Dissertation students will do some time with me to work on their documents. And also just to say that the dissertation involves a teaching video within the submission. So again, just as Helen was saying, it's all related to reflecting on, thinking about improving, and then documenting your own practice as you're going. So the module structure in the first semester, we do a module on the student-teacher relationship and to do with the complexities of all of that and what we're looking into. And then the second module, we do a more musical materials based module where we're looking at how we can adapt and customize repertoire and studies and stuff for our students in really creative and innovative ways. And then the dissertation, which is the double module running across the year, that's a topic that I'll work with the students to come up with something that's really relevant to their own teaching practice, and hopefully something at the end which really develops the teaching practice in a way that the student has maybe been sort of something that's been niggling them for a while, or something they've really been interested in. And so yeah, that's the core sense of it. And yes, the delivery is these asynchronous webinars, which are really great and flexible, and then the mentor relationship, and then time with some various lecturers. Now the mentor relationship, it runs through the 2 courses. So there's usually, I believe, students will have the same mentor through MA and PG Cert. So that's a really valuable relationship. And so the mentor is there, I think, to really bounce off stuff specific to, say, the piano or, you know, the trumpet and whatever it's going to be, and of course, string instruments. And, you know, stuff that I don't know, I actually play and teach the saxophone. So the mentor is there as that, you know, point of connection and, I suppose, you know, more experienced equivalent right in the student's own discipline. And so they meet with the mentors regularly, maybe either every other week or weekly, depending on how they come to that agreement with the mentor. And yeah, the students, by, you know, all of them, that's their highlight of the whole experience. It really is a wonderful thing we offer there.
Yeah, it sounds very bespoke and flexible.
I think it's great. I think it's great to have that sounding board, to have that critical friend that you know help, and because it's so regular, I think it really helps you plan your work and plan your thinking as well. It keeps you on track. So I think as Andrew says, it's a wonderful relationship, and not many courses I think offer this.
No. Yeah. We've got lots of questions coming in. I will get to them all. The first question, she says, is, I'm a more mature student, so I'd be interested in whether this is something for me. She's not that mature, she's younger than me, but, you know, what do you think, Phil? I mean, is it just for these young new teachers, or is it for old crusty types as well?
Well, as Helen said earlier on, it's been a surprising age range, hasn't it, Helen? We've had people relatively inexperienced, you know, out to college, but who, you know, gone straight into teaching. And we've had people actually who are retired taking the course or winding down and everything in between. And it's for the reasons Helen described earlier on. It's sometimes people just want to take that time to reflect and look at what they're doing more carefully, give themselves a little space to think about it. Yeah. So age is irrelevant.
Age is just a number. How much contact time is there So I presume you're meaning there, Helen, sort of live online contact time rather than recorded webinars. Andrew, what's it like for the MA?
Well, so live contact time is part of, I think, that bespoke arrangement more. So if I'm scheduling a meeting with students to go through a document, that's we'll arrange that as and when. If we need to take another look at something, we'll do that. But in terms of online content for the MA, there is a webinar released almost basically every week because we've got these 2 modules running. And then there's these other little extra bits that sort of pop up. And in terms of working through that, it's kind of up to the student. So there'll be delivered lecture content, maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, sometimes up to 2 hours, depending what's there, which we can dive into. And then there's forums, there's little activities, there's things to reflect on. You can respond to your colleagues in the forum. And so all of that, is kind of situational. But on the MA, at least, generally you'll be plugging into either a synchronous or asynchronous activity at least once a week. And like you said, though, there's this inherent flexibility because asynchronous you can do at your own convenience. Synchronous stuff we'll arrange usually one-to-one.
Yeah. And Helen Dromey, Helen Dromey. How many assignments are there on the PGCert? How many are there? It's a two-year course, 1 year course, 1 year course.
PGCert's 1 year, it's your first year, and there are 4 units. So for every unit, you do 2 assignments. The first one's a formative, and that you have to do it. It's compulsory, but it's not assessed. So that assignment is just getting you in the zone and checking you're on track. It's something very related and specific to the module, but it's normally a shorter task, and you'll get some feedback from your mentor. And then each module also has a summative task, and that's a larger assignment. So for example, there's 1 essay on the course, sort of an academic written essay about an area of teaching that you're particularly interested in, and we give you some suggestions, and some people go off in their own direction, some like to use a title we've given them. That's absolutely fine. We have another unit where somebody has to analyze a lesson that they have given in a very specific way, using lots of charts and graphs. And then the second part is they have to reflect on what happened in the lesson, what they think now, having read lots of material, they might do better. So that's that kind of analytical sort of writing. And then they have to devise a 1-year curriculum for the curricular unit, which is it's quite a big and daunting task initially, but so useful. We actually have teachers come back and say, that curriculum I used, I'm using the whole of our hub's using it now, we're trialing it, or it was so handy that having that first year, I've written myself a second year now. So although quite a big piece of work, incredibly relevant to what you're doing. And then finally, a technique unit, which asks you to teach a technique to a student. So there's lots of different sorts of assignment, but there are 4.
Brilliant. Now then, this is a question for Phil coming up next. I think must be from China. She says, I'm a teacher mainly teaching Chinese children. We usually speak Cantonese during the lesson. Do I need to change our lesson language while recording the class for the assignment, please? Or can we use Cantonese as well, and then I translate it later? Phil.
Well, that's a very good question. I'm going to pass that one on to Helen, because I believe she's had experience of this very situation. Is that right, Helen?
Yeah, we would always encourage students to teach in the language that they teach. We want these lessons to be real. We don't want them to be pretend. And the absolute worst thing, and I've marked them, is when it's a script and hello, how are you today? And then the chat, I am very well, thank you. It's just what? It's just awful. We want real teaching on these videos. So lots of teachers teach in their first language, completely natural. Then they will give us a script. They will give us a translation, which we can work from. To be honest, when you see a lesson in any language, you pick up so many visual cues anyway. But obviously, just so we can make it completely fair, we will ask for an English version. not to confuse it with the course that we run in Mandarin, where exactly the same students will teach in their first language, but their written work is submitted in traditional Chinese. Just to make
Simplified
that really
Chinese.
clear.
Wonderful. Now, one of my favourite times of year is August, when the ESTA summer school runs. I can't be there this year, and I'm gutted because it was just brilliant fun when I went once. But Phil, tell me, this is actually part of the course, isn't it? The students attend the ESTA summer school just before the courses begin. Is that right?
Yes, we've made it a compulsory element because over the years we've realised how vital that first the opportunity to make face-to-face is. I mean, there's the practical side of things because when at the start of every course, there's always that learning curve when you think, how do I get into the online platform? Where are the resources? Where's the library? You know, what's my password? All of that needs to be sorted, and it's so much easier if you can do that with a real person in the same room at the same time. So that takes a lot of the stress out of it. But also, if you're going to continue your learning in an online environment, having built up some friendships and relationships during that week it makes so much difference to the overall student and lecturer experience, I'd say. So that's why when we launched the course many years ago now, the summer school was compulsory, and we had to halt it for a few years because of COVID and travel restrictions. And I think it became obvious to us all that it was really important to get it back, get that element back again.
Yeah,
would you agree, guys?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
On every level, it's a great thing.
Yeah, and of course the course, the residential week, which will be at Cheltenham, which is very nice shopping apparently, this year, is all included in the fee anyway. So you know your room and your board and your lodge and the concerts and everything else is all included. So I think it's a fun week.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's
and
the best way to start the course.
Yeah, and also there's is there a discount if you're not taking the PG cert yet, want to come to the summer school? Is there a discount if you're an ESTA member? Remind me, Phil.
Yeah, so if you're taking the course, or you want to take the course and you're an ESTA member, you get a discount on the fees, which is fabulous. If you're just coming to the summer school and you're not signing up for the course, you can do that as well. And provided you're an ESTA member, you get a discount. It's we're very friendly to ESTA members, you know.
Discounts everywhere. Brilliant. And bursary funds and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So definitely worth your membership money. Lovely. We've got one last question. If you have any other questions, quickly stick them in the question and answer box. But it's a good one here. I teach violin and piano. Gosh, you're brave lady. Would I choose my first instrument? Maybe if you're equally good on both, would there be one you would suggest starting on? What do you think, Andrew?
That's a good question. I mean, I've got students in the MA right now who are maybe down as piano or violin and so on, but actually they're doing quite a diverse range of things. So I've got students working on dissertations about working with Orff Schulwerk. Actually, there's a way of preparing students to take piano lessons, and so there's a great degree of flexibility, I would imagine, and perhaps Helen is better placed on this one. We can use that kind of flexibility to work in somebody that does work with two instruments. And Helen, what do you think?
I think you should put down the one that you want to focus on developing most, because then you'll get the specialist mentor who you'll be meeting with, who will be a teacher of that instrument. There's nothing to stop you accessing the resources for the other instruments. They will be on the Moodle page. So some of the webinars are the same for all instruments, but certainly when we get down to the technique unit and other bits and pieces, the videos and all the techniques are specific for each instrument. There's nothing to stop you watching it for all instruments. So, I think you will get something, you can access different things for different instruments. But perhaps if there is an instrument you think, I'd really like to put a special focus on that this year, And I'd really like to have regular conversations with someone who absolutely loves teaching that instrument and is really experienced. Perhaps go for that one.
Yeah, I think actually at the end of the day, when you graduate as well, your certificate will actually say whether, you know, if you're a pianist or it's bowed strings or brass. So it's as Helen says, it's good to choose one, but they apply, you know, much of the material applies to all.
Absolutely. It's been just a lovely evening. I'm so grateful to you all for joining. Oh, hang on, one more question has popped in. He says, good evening. Thank you for this webinar. You're welcome. If I intend to apply for the PG Cert between 2024-25, should I attend the summer school held in 24 or the one sort of in the middle of the PG Cert course? Phil?
You'll need to, if you're applying for the 24-25 academic year, you'll need to attend the summer school this August.
Yeah. And ask, can students choose their mentor? How long is the session with the mentor every fortnight, and what will be covered? Is it customized for the individual's need? Well, we know it's customized, that's definitely the case. But what about that, Helen? Can they choose a mentor?
No, can't choose the mentor. They're all good. They're all good.
They are all great, aren't they?
Oh, amazing.
I mean, you will have a meeting with your mentor every fortnight for about an hour, normally runs a little bit over because everyone gets talking, or some mentors and mentees prefer every week for about half an hour. So you'll either, occasionally people are on their own with their mentor, but most likely you'll be in a small group of up to about 4 teachers, which is really nice because there'll be different ages, different experiences, probably different nationalities. So you'll really get a good perspective. But I would not worry. Honestly, the mentors are absolutely lovely. You're not going to get, why have they put me with, you know, it's just not going to happen. But, you know, if you have any concerns, come to me, come to Phil, and we'll sort it out. It's never happened yet, but we will sort anything and make sure that you're having a really, really good experience.
Wonderful. The question's coming in thick and fast now. I've said we're going. She says, are you running the PG Cert next year as well? Phil?
We're going to be running the PG Cert forever, hopefully.
Forever. There you go.
Forever and ever.
Sorry, just every year, hop on the merry-go-round at any point. Joanna's asking, is there a deadline for applications?
Ideally, and this is my pure selfishness, sort of get them in before Easter helps us with our planning enormously. Yeah. So that's good.
It's just checking, what level of her students should she choose, or what age range should they be, or does it not matter? Doesn't matter, Helen?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Some people focus on adult learners. Some people have focused in the past on children, all children, just with additional needs, because that's where they teach. Other people primary, secondary, some at junior conservatoire. We'll make the course fit you. It's what you do. So you don't need to change.
So it's the students that you need the help with. It's that the sort of the age range that you're wanting help with, and you just choose those ones.
I mean, it's all about growing in your own practice, isn't it? So it's the thing is that we really want it to reflect what you're doing day by day, week by week, and how we can help you grow in that.
Brilliant.
And we were just discussing actually before we went online, weren't we, that having a break sometimes between the PG Cert and the second year to complete the MAs is quite good, and you know, we're very accommodating with that because it's such a benefit to the teacher sometimes to be able to take a whole year to take stock of what they've learned in the PG Cert before moving on to complete the MA.
Yeah. Do you have to interview or audition to get a place? Phil, what happens when you apply?
No auditions and no sight reading. And no scales. You'd be delighted to. There are three main requirements. One is that you're teaching, and as Helen says, you know, an entry level sort of 6 students is good. To have played at some point in your career, hopefully, grade 8 and above, You don't have to have the actual diploma, but if you can demonstrate to us that you've played at that standard, and also because it's a master's, that you have already an undergraduate degree. Now, there are some people out there that are incredibly successful teachers who don't have a degree at all. So we do have a way around that, and that's if you're able to demonstrate to us by your level of experience, by references, by what sort of professional development you've taken up until this date, we can put a sort of package together. And if it looks, presents well, and convinces us that you could work at an MA level, then we'd accept that as well. So there are alternatives if you don't have that initial degree.
Great, thanks, Phil. If all of your teaching is in groups, does that work as well? Helen, do you have lots of people doing groups? Andrew?
Yeah.
Whole class, small groups,
Mm.
all fine.
One-to-ones also. Brilliant.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think that's everyone's questions. Yes, I think so. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been really nice seeing you all. And thank you again, of course, to Andrew and Helen and the almighty Phil Aird. There's some thank yous coming in the chat window there. If you want to read more about it and sign up, the address is, over to you, Phil.
www.estaeducation.co.uk.
There you go. Fantastic. Do reach out as well to us if you have any more questions. We'd all be happy to answer them. Send them to what email address, Phil?
Well, you can send them to me, or if you click through on the website, there'll be a contact form. So my address is Philip with one L at estastrings.org.uk. But if you hit find the website, there's a contact page. You can reach out to us then.
Lovely. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a lovely rest of your evening.